Wissam Haddad, also known as Abu Asayyad, preaches to his followers in person and online.
If you are anything but a Muslim, you're a loser. And the only way to be a winner is to be a Muslim.
The cleric speaks at a religious organisation in Western Sydney called the Al Medina Dawah Centre.
So the Yahud, the Jews of Banu Israel, they have been a very mischievous people, causing fitna even before the coming of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
But comments he made in November last year have landed him and the centre in the federal court.
They had their hand everywhere, so they were in the media, as they do today, and they would use this against the weak, hiding like the cowards that they are, today.
The Executive Council of Australian Jewry commenced the proceedings alleging his speeches include derogatory generalisations about Jewish people, breaching provisions under the Racial Discrimination Act. The peak body says documents filed in court allege Mr Haddad has described Jewish people as vile and treacherous.
We can't allow these sorts of exceptional behaviours to go unremarked, because the standard you walk past is the standard you accept.
Mr Haddad's lawyer, Elias Tapshuri, says his client intends to defend the matter.
In November, when these comments were said to be made, there were a lot of issues going on. There were a lot of people who were suffering, both here and overseas, in relation to what they were witnessing on a day-to-day basis before their own eyes on TV and what was being published. There were a lot of comments that were made, and we say that those comments were misconstrued in many ways by those who seek to interpret them for whatever purpose they may have.
The two parties were engaged in dialogue for months before this legal action.
These sorts of proceedings cannot be commenced unless there is first a complaint lodged with the Australian Human Rights Commission, which is what we did, and an attempt made to resolve the matter through conciliation, which is again what we did. The attempts were not successful, and so the complaint before the Human Rights Commission has been terminated, and that then opens the way for these proceedings to be commenced.
He has sought to be conciliatory. He has offered for people who do have issues with what he has said to attend his centre, to attend the mosque, to sit down so he can clarify the comments with them in front of his congregation and make sure that they're aware of exactly what he means by his comments. He's even happy to release a joint statement together as a unified body.
At the turn of the century, the Executive Council of Australian Jewry successfully argued in the federal court that Frederick Tobin breached the Racial Discrimination Act.
The Tobin case was a famous early case in the Racial Discrimination Act, and that case involved a website which had all sorts of Holocaust denial material on it, and that was an important test case which actually proved that point, that Jewish people are protected under the Racial Discrimination Act. So if it is vilification of Jewish people, then that could potentially breach the Racial Discrimination Act.
It's sad and disappointing to us that we feel that on this occasion, once again, we have no alternative but to take this kind of action.
Dr Bill Swanee at the Australian Catholic University specialises in human rights and anti-discrimination law.
The test under the Racial Discrimination Act is the conduct must be reasonably likely in all the circumstances to offend, insult, humiliate or intimidate a person, and it has to be based on the race or the ethnic group of the person or the group. These types of claims are quite rare in my experience. It is a low threshold in terms of the Racial Discrimination Act, but because of the compulsory conciliation requirement, like very few of them go to court and very few of them are known about by the public.
Court proceedings for this case are expected to play out early next year.
I think there's a strong defence because a lot of what he's saying is seeking to educate. A lot of what he's saying is in circumstances where it won't be found, in our view, to breach that section.
It is the job of government and law enforcement agencies to maintain social peace and harmony in this country. It shouldn't be the job of our community or indeed any community to have to do that. But in the absence of any action in relation to the behaviour that we've been talking about, our community has just felt that we've had no alternative.